Well, everybody, we said that we were going to come back and talk about the bombing of Pearl, and here we are. On the 26th of November of 1941, a big group of Japanese aircraft carriers had left the islands of Japan and started sailing east toward Hawaii. Obviously, their goal was to now not only attack America, but also begin to create a much broader empire than what they had currently held. There were ambassadors that were at the United States headquarters, obviously the White House. They had been stationed there. Again, everybody, I think that you're aware of this, but if not, there are many embassies that are in DC, nations from around the world that have a little plot of sovereign soil on American dirt. We have embassies around the world as well, but those Japanese ambassadors had gone to the White House to talk to President Roosevelt and explain that they wanted to work toward peace. However, Japanese high command, even at that point, knew that the attack was going to be inevitable. And even though there were overtures toward peace, that was basically a foregone conclusion. A little over a week and a half later, on the 7th of December of 1941, at roughly 8 o'clock, these Japanese Zeros descended. They flew down. Some of them were kamikaze pilots, flew directly at some of the battleships, but the island of Oahu at Pearl Harbor was attacked. Japanese Zero airplanes came out of the sky and attacked. This was going to be the main docking place of the entire American fleet, at least in the Pacific. Now, what's amazing is that it could have been far worse. Some of our aircraft carriers and other boats that were part of our fleet were out doing what were called exercises in the Pacific, not at Pearl at that point. They had sailed away. It could have been even worse. As it is, we're going to lose almost 2,400 people as a country, but it could have been even worse on that day had those exercises not been going on. This area is going to be known as Battleship Row. You can see it on the bottom, the ships stacked, but also on the top to see kind of how they're arranged. I think now, especially with hindsight being 2020, we're able to see that was not a very good or strategic way of lining up the boats. Maybe efficient at that point, but not very strategic. As the Japanese aircraft came into Pearl, the message that went out over their radios was Tora, Tora, Tora. In Japanese, that means tiger, tiger, tiger. The code word for we have caught America completely by surprise. We have been able to achieve complete and total surprise. Now we're going to go attack them. So again, 359 aircraft come and descend on Hawaii. As they began to bomb, and you're going to see, I was able to find a clip in English, but one of the things that was going to be seen or demonstrated at that point was how unprepared America was for attack, especially from Japan, even though we had begun focusing on making sure that we could go and defend or protect the American way of life against Hitler. I think in many ways we were ill prepared for what was going to be coming from Japan. By the time the dust had settled, we had lost close to 2,500 people. And one of the most important or iconic things is going to be the battleship Arizona. If you guys were to go to Pearl today, you would still see a living memorial of the Arizona. It's down in the water, and you're able to see where those guys' final resting place was going to be. Over 1,000 guys that were going to be on that boat. Now, what's interesting is that as time has gone on, there's been a push to now perhaps take the boat up. A lot of people feel like that's sacred ground, but it's begun to leak some oil into the bay or harbor there, and there's been talk about pulling the ship up. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'll be interesting to see what goes on as we move forward. I want to share a clip. It's a couple minutes with you from Pearl Harbor, so let's go ahead and cue that up. I hope that you guys enjoy it, again, from the movie Pearl Harbor. Here we go. What you saw was the Arizona going up. Obviously, this is going to be the smoke and the aftermath of that, along with the rest of Battleship Row on fire. It was a horrific day for America, one that President Roosevelt will say, as we will cover on Wednesday, a day that shall live in infamy. It's interesting, I think, that probably for many of your great grandparents, perhaps that would be a day that they would remember for people of a younger generation, maybe obviously not yours, but 9/11 would be in that category. And then now for you guys and those that are younger than you, 9/11 is only remembered through history books or videos from that time, not something that you remember having happened. So it's amazing. We can look back at Pearl and think, well, that's a long time ago. That has no real connection. It wasn't as significant, maybe a little bit more so for you guys, 9/11, because you know people close to you that can remember it clearly. But I think for many people of that generation, that was going to be a momentous day, to be sure. Well, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the war in the Pacific and how that's going to play out, and then perhaps even get to a little bit more of the war in Europe. Like I said, I think that we'll wrap up all of this even after Easter vacation. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday.